My ex-wife told me she could throw a stone and find a better man. I didn't argue. I just went back to work and found the woman I deserved. My name is Danny Reyes. I fix cars for a living. Always have, probably always will. And I say that with zero shame because there was a time I almost let someone make me feel otherwise. Her name was Tara Reyes, for 15 months. Before that, Tara Molina, which she went back to the second the ink dried on the divorce papers, fast, like she'd been rehearsing it. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party in Koreatown. She was laughing loud, hair down, wearing this red dress that had nothing to do with the November cold outside. I wasn't even supposed to be there. My buddy Marcus dragged me after a double shift, and I still had engine grease under my fingernails I couldn't fully scrub out. She thought that was charming back then. Told me I had working man's hands. Said it like a compliment. I believed her. I was almost 28 when we got married. She was 25. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't broke either. I had a steady job at Phil's shop in Culver City. I was getting faster and better every month. Phil was already talking about making me lead technician. I had a plan. We had a one-bedroom in Inglewood. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. I paid rent on time. Never missed a bill. She wanted nicer things. I got her nicer things when I could. Weekend trips to Santa Barbara. Birthday dinners at places that made me do quiet math in my head while reading the menu. I thought that was love. Stretching further than you're comfortable to make someone happy. Then she entered a pageant. Not Miss California, not even anything well known. Some local event, small room, modest crowd. She didn't win, didn't place, walked away with a participation sash, some flowers, and a completely new personality, apparently. Something shifted in her after that. Like the lighting in the room changed, and suddenly she was looking at everything, including me, differently. The apartment looked smaller. My truck looked older. My hands, the same hands she'd once called charming, started getting mentioned with a different tone. You're always dirty. You smell like the shop. Do you have to talk about cars at dinner? I kept working, kept trying, thought it was a phase. It wasn't. 15 months after our wedding, she sat across from me at our kitchen table, the table I'd carried up 2 flights of stairs myself, and told me she was leaving. I asked her why. She said, and I remember this word for word because some things don't leave you even when you want them to. She said, Danny, I can throw a stone and find a man who knows what I'm worth. Just like that. Flat. Like she'd been saving it up, polishing it, waiting for the right moment. I didn't yell, didn't cry, not in front of her. Just sat there while she kept talking. Her potential, her beauty, her future, how she'd held herself back by settling. How a woman like her deserved someone with vision. After a while, it stopped sounding like a conversation and started sounding like a speech she'd rehearsed in the mirror. She left 2 weeks later. I sat in that apartment for about a month, feeling like I was the problem, going over every argument, every late night I came home, tired, every dinner I couldn't make more expensive. I genuinely believed for a while that she was right, that I had failed her. That's what being slowly emasculated does. You don't feel it happening. You just wake up one day, hollowed out, and assume that's just what you are now. I threw myself into work. Phil promoted me to lead tech 4 months after the divorce. I was good, genuinely getting good. I could diagnose an engine problem by sound alone. European, Japanese, American, classic, modern, didn't matter. The shop started picking up a different clientele. Referrals. People with real money who needed someone they could trust with 60, 80, $100,000 cars. That's how I ended up in Beverly Hills on a Tuesday night at 11:15. Dispatch called me for a roadside assist. A woman with a stalled car on Sunset near the east edge of Beverly Hills. I drove out thinking it'd be quick. Dead battery, maybe. Back home by midnight. It was not quick. The car was pulled over near the curb with hazards blinking. White, I remember registering it was a Mercedes, but I was already moving toward the hood, already in work mode, so I didn't stop to look it over properly. The woman standing beside it was in her late 30s, dressed like she'd come from somewhere formal. Heels, dark blazer, hair up. Tired, but the composed kind of tired, the kind that takes years to develop. She said her name was Cecile Hartman. I said, I'm Danny. Let me take a look. And I got to work. It unraveled fast. What I first thought was the alternator turned out to be the beginning of a chain. One thing connected to another. And by 12:30, I was deep in it, crouched under the hood on a Beverly Hills sidewalk, sweating through my shirt. Forearms black to the elbow. She sat on a nearby bench and didn't hover, didn't sigh loudly, checked her phone occasionally, asked me once if I wanted water, and when I said yes, she walked 2 blocks, came back with 2 cold bottles from a vending machine somewhere. She didn't have to do that. Most people don't. I needed a part I didn't carry on the truck. Ian, that was that. I had to be honest with her. Can't finish it here. Needs to come to the shop. Tonight into tomorrow. She nodded. No drama. Asked if I could suggest a car she could call. It was almost 1 in the morning. Quiet street. And she was alone in heels. I said, I'll get you a car sorted first, before I touch the truck. She looked at me for a second, something passing across her face I couldn't quite read. She said, okay. I towed it back to the shop in Culver City. Got there around 2, left a note on it for the morning crew, and went home. Phil called me the next morning before I even got in. He said, Danny, what is this car? I said, what do you mean? It's a Mercedes E-Class, white, towed it in last night, alternator plus. He said, Danny, come look at this car. I drove in. Phil was standing in the bay with it like he was in a museum, hands on hips, head shaking slowly. A couple of the guys were gravitating toward it too in that quiet way where they're trying not to make it obvious. I walked over, looked at it properly for the first time. It wasn't just an E-Class. It was a factory customized, hand-finished, one-of-a-kind build. The kind of car you don't order from a dealership, and the kind you commission. The paint was a custom white with a finish that shifted slightly in different light. Interior was full bespoke. I looked through the window, and it wasn't anything from a standard catalog. The badging was subtle, but when you knew, you knew. Phil said, very quietly, do you know who this belongs to? I said, a woman named Cecile. Hartman, I think. Phil looked at me for a long moment, and then he laughed, not a funny laugh. The other kind. He said, kid, the Hartman family has a production company that's been operating in Hollywood since before you were born. She could buy the shop. She could buy this whole block. I looked at the car again, then I shrugged and said I better get started on it then. Phil shook his head and walked away, still laughing. I called Cecile that afternoon when it was done. She came to the shop in Culver City. Beverly Hills to Culver City is not a long drive, but it's a different world, and she walked into that bay in a simple outfit and looked at the car without commenting on the surroundings at all. She looked at the bill, itemized, parts, tow, labor, standard rates. She said, this is all? I said, yeah, that's the work. She said she'd expected more given the hours. I told her I charge what the job costs. She paid, left, turned back once at the door, and looked at me in a way I filed under nothing. Because what was I going to do with that? She called the shop 3 days later, asking for me specifically. Question about the car. I walked her through it. She called the following week. Same thing. The third time she didn't have a car question. I almost didn't go. That's what I want to say. I almost convinced myself I was misreading everything. She was 37. I was 33. She had a house in Bel Air with more rooms than I'd ever counted. I drove a truck with 140,000 miles on it. I sat with it for 2 days before I called her back. She'd asked if I wanted to have dinner. Actual words, no performance. I said yes. She told me early, maybe the third time we went out, about her first marriage, a man named Fletcher, 6 months. Her father, a retired attorney with a sharp eye and sharper instincts, had caught Fletcher systematically trying to redirect money out of a joint account before any real damage was done. She described it the way you describe a weather event. This happened, then this, then my father caught it, then it was over. She said she'd been alone since, because she'd become very good at identifying what people actually wanted from her. Said it without bitterness. This is just a fact. I didn't make any speeches about being different. What was I going to say? I just showed up on time every time. Didn't ask about money. Didn't pretend I could match what she had. When she offered things I couldn't reciprocate, I told her so plainly. I think she was so tired of performances that she just plain read as extraordinary. 11 months later, I proposed. Quiet, just us, no theater. The event was a film premiere. Cecile's family's production company had a picture coming out, a big one, the kind with a proper red carpet in front of a theater in Hollywood, photographers lined up, the whole architecture of it. She'd asked me to come as her guest, and I'd worn the best suit I owned and spent 20 minutes in front of the mirror trying to make my hair cooperate. We'd walked the carpet. I'd stood slightly behind her because that felt right. It was her world, her night. She'd reached back and taken my hand and pulled me level with her without looking at me, and I remember thinking, yeah, this is it. Inside was everything you'd expect. It was 2 floors, VIP section on the upper level, cordoned off with enough subtlety to feel more exclusive than a velvet rope. Open bar, people I half recognized from movies and television moving around like regular humans, which was still a little disorienting. Cecile knew everyone, moved through it all with that same unhurried composure, introduced me simply, this is Danny, and let me be a person rather than an explanation. We were up in the VIP section, drinks in hand, watching the crowd below, when I felt something change in the air beside me. Cecile's eyes had tracked to something below. I followed her gaze. Tara was at the bottom of the stairs. She was dressed. I don't know how else to put this. Like she'd calculated the exact outfit that would get her noticed. Short, tight, a cut that was working very hard. She'd clearly gotten in somehow. A press pass or a guest list favor, or she'd talked her way past someone. I didn't know. She was scanning the room with the expression of a person looking for something specific. Then she found it. She found me. I watched her process it. The VIP cordon. Me standing up there in a suit that fit better than anything she'd ever seen me in. And then Cecile was beside me, and the recognition crossed her face, because Tara knew who Cecile Hartman was. In the circles she was trying to orbit, Cecile Hartman's family name was not unknown. She started toward the stairs. One of the event staff stepped forward politely. She said something. He nodded slowly, checked something, and stepped aside. She came up. She walked over like we were old friends, reconnecting. Big smile. Danny. Oh my God. Hi. Like she was delighted, like we'd simply lost touch. I said, Tara. She said I looked incredible, that she almost didn't recognize me, that she was so glad to see me, that she'd thought about reaching out so many times. All of it was warm and practiced, and moving at a speed designed to not give me room to respond before the next sentence. Cecile stood beside me and said nothing, just held her glass and watched with an expression of mild, pleasant interest. Tara glanced at her once, then again. Then she said, softer, leaning slightly toward me. Danny, I need to say something. I was wrong. I was young, and I was stupid, and I threw away something real, and I've thought about that every day since. I know this isn't the place, but I've been trying to find a way to tell you. I made a mistake. I looked at her. I genuinely felt nothing. Not anger, not old hurt, nothing. Just a kind of spacious quiet. Before I could say anything, Cecile said warmly, I'm sorry. I don't think we've met. I'm Cecile. Tara turned to her, reset her smile. Said yes, she knew who she was, of course. Her family's work was incredible. She was such a fan. And by the way, she and Danny had a history. They were married for a while, actually. And she hoped that wasn't awkward. Cecile said, not at all. How long were you married? 15 months? Cecile nodded thoughtfully, like someone had told her mildly interesting trivia. And you left him? Tara's smile held, but the warmth went out of it slightly. It was complicated. We were young, of course. Cecile looked at me briefly, not the look of a woman threatened, the look of a woman watching something confirm itself. And then back at Tara, what do you do? And here's something cracked in a Tara's composure. She was trying to land in this conversation at a level that made her relevant, and the question kept pulling the ground from under her. She mentioned something she was working on, something in the entertainment space, a project in development, and it was vague enough that anyone in that room would have recognized the vagueness. Cecile listened politely. Then Tara shifted. I saw it happen. The warmth strategy wasn't working, and something colder moved in behind her eyes, she said, still smiling, but not really. I just want to say, and I say this as someone who cares about Danny, you should be careful. He's a sweet guy, but he came from nothing, and someone like him around someone like you you have to ask yourself what the actual draw is. I'm not trying to be hard. She said, that's interesting. Can I tell you how we met? Tara said nothing. My car broke down. Late at night, he drove out, worked on it for almost 3 hours on the side of the road, sweating through his shirt. And when he realized he couldn't finish it there, he told me immediately, instead of stringing it along. He got me a car home before he touched the tow truck. Before, he charged me exactly what the work cost. I know what I was expecting, and it was considerably more than what he charged me. He didn't ask who I was, didn't perform anything, just worked. She paused. I have met men with a great deal more money than Danny who would not have done a single one of those things. So When you say I should ask myself what the draw is, I did the first night. I've been answering the same question the same way for about a year now. Tara's jaw moved slightly. She was recalibrating, hunting for the next angle. And then she went further than I expected. She said, voice hardening. You know what? I'm trying to help you. Men like him, they get close to money, they change. I lived with him. You've known him a year. I've known him long enough, Cecile said simply. Still warm, still that same unhurried composure. And you've known him long enough to leave him and come back when he's standing in the VIP section at a film premiere. That's also information. The smile was still there. It was the smile that made it devastating. If she'd been cold about it, Tara could have pushed back. But she was pleasant the whole time, genuinely pleasant, like she was just observing things that were visibly true. Tara opened her mouth. Cecile said, I'm going to get us fresh drinks. Danny. She touched my arm and we moved, just like that. She turned her back on Tara, mid-sentence, and guided us a few steps to the bar and spoke to the bartender and handed me a glass and didn't reference the last 5 minutes at all. Behind us, I heard Tara's voice rising, directing itself at me. Danny, I'm talking to... I didn't turn around. I heard Cecile say something quietly to a man near the cordon. He moved toward Tara with the professional, frictionless smoothness of event security who has done this 1,000 times. Polite, firm, not a scene, just a gentle, inexorable movement toward the stairs and then down and then out. I watched it from the corner of my eye. Cecile was looking at the crowd below, glass raised slightly to her lips. She said, almost to herself, she's going to be fine. Some people need to be escorted out of a few rooms before they understand which ones they actually belong in. She didn't say it mean. She said it the way you'd say anything that was just observationally true. We stayed another 2 hours. Cecile introduced me to the director of the film, a woman named Roberta, who shook my hand and said Cecile talked about me. And that was briefly terrifying, and then fine. Marcus texted me at some point asking how the premiere was. I typed back, wild. He sent 3 question marks. I said I'd tell him later. On the drive home, Cecile was quiet for a while, in the way she gets when she's thinking, and then she said, she's pretty. I said, yeah. She said, I understand why you married her. I thought about how to answer that. Then I said, I don't anymore. Not really. Cecile looked out the window, said, that's the right answer. People ask me sometimes what it's like, the life I have now versus where I came from. I tell them honestly, it doesn't feel like a different person's life because it isn't. It's the same life, same hand, same work, just the context around it shifted, and I still go to the shop. Phil is still there, the guys still give me grief, and I still know every car that rolls in better than anyone else in that bay. Tara wanted a stone she could throw. She threw it. I genuinely hope she found something on the other side. I know what I found. I'm not looking for anything else.